You are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. Today on the show, we have my good friend, Newell Fox, serial entrepreneur. This guy is the former owner and CEO of Solutions Bridal, owner and founder of the Florida Bridal Expo, and owner and founder of Blue Sunshine Properties. He's also a professor. He's also the president of Newell Fox University. He's also, what else are you?
I got a lot of things going on. I gotta get focused is what I need to do.
And he's the first guest to start the show standing up anyway.
We're trying to get hyped up in here. We got to get some energy in here. Show 30,
Dude, I
right?
got plenty of energy, but if I stand up, the camera's going to cut me off. And you will have a headless Colin for the entire episode. But Ty is back. Ty was sick last week.
Yeah.
Dude, you're feeling better though, huh?
Feeling better, yeah.
Is there anything going on in the world? This episode airs early December.
Yeah, December 4th. It's homecoming week this week.
This airs, December 3rd.
Yeah.
Monday, December 3rd.
Yeah.
So it's homecoming. Well, it's homecoming week now. This week. But what's going on in December?
Coming off a win against Florida State, so.
Yeah.
All right. I haven't looked too far into the future yet. So,
Yeah. Well, this is a reminder to everybody who listens to this today on Monday, December 3rd, that tomorrow, Tuesday, December 4th, we're doing our WHOA GNV holiday extravaganza at Krispy Kreme because Ty just had to throw this out into the world and it somehow came to fruition and it's happening.
Yeah.
So tomorrow,
ready for it?
yeah, I'm pumped. We're going to
That's
give away
awesome.
a lot of donuts. We have not put a limit onto how many, but we're thinking it's going to be thousands.
Yeah.
Who gets to come to that? Just the
Anybody who wants to
public.
come.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to come. Newell, you should be there. Come meet people. Get a free glazed donut. We basically figured out how many donuts we're gonna have to do in order to turn the hot glaze machine on. That was his objective, and he got it done.
Hot now, 10 a.m.
He got it done. So from 10 to noon-ish, I'm kind of assuming, Ty and I are going to be out there handing out free donuts to everybody in Gainesville. So everybody should come because I would like a line from Krispy Kreme all the way down the 13th Street to New Scooters for Less. That'd be pretty epic.
We could do it.
And what's the goal there?
Just to thank everybody for listening and for their support and for loving Gainesville as much as we do.
Got it.
Yeah.
And maybe come out and meet Newell.
Yeah, Newell said he's going to be there. You can be there, right?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow, December 4th.
I guess I'll have to be. I like Krispy Kremes.
It's so great. We can put people on the spot, right here.
Yeah.
And they kind of have to commit to things that they weren't expecting to.
That's right.
So, well, dude, thanks so much for being on the show.
No, I appreciate it. I've seen a lot of your other guests and obviously watch a ton of things on YouTube and constantly trying to better myself and absorb knowledge from all walks of life. So I think this is a great thing that you and Ty do. You bring people in here, and you're a smart guy for doing it because you get the cheat sheet from everybody else that comes in here, and you get all the secrets.
Of
you
course.
get how they built it. You get how they made it. You get how not to make these mistakes. So it's a melting pot for you, which is great. And I think it's a great melting pot, obviously, for your listeners because they can get little nuggets every single show, and it advances their business every time they come on because they can hear something and say, oh, I didn't hear that 2 weeks ago. I need to add that to my business. And then you and Ty with the show are making people better out there in the community, which is a huge thing.
Yeah. How many times have I said this is my school?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I tell people the same thing.
It's definitely been an educational ride for me, so it's awesome. Well, dude, so we like to start with everybody's origin story. So you got to kind of take us way back to where you, what happened? How did you even become an entrepreneur? How did a guy like yourself get into, the bridal industry? Is that a thing? Bridal industry?
Sure,
wedding industry?
Sure, the wedding industry, the bridal industry.
How did that come to be? So give us a little background on your story.
So I'm born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm living on the first, my parents have a house on the very first hole on the golf course. My best friend's dad, he's an entrepreneur. My dad's an entrepreneur. He brings over an article. I'm 11 years old. And it's an article from a guy in Orlando that goes on the golf courses and gets scuba gear on and goes into the ponds and pulls golf balls out of the ponds. Now, when you live in Louisville, Kentucky, Florida is a paradise. You see the palm trees, the ocean. You don't understand it because you don't live there. He shows us this article. It says the guy's pulling these golf balls out of the pond. He's making $2,000 or $3,000 a month. And me and my best friend were in the pond in full camo gear that night mission. The pond's about knee deep. We're in there pulling golf balls out of the pond, bring them back to the bathtub. We wash them up, we shine them. I lived on hole number 1. My best friend lived on hole number 8. So there were 2 or 3 water holes between hole number 1 and hole number 8. Where did we set up shop? Hole number 6. So I've already lost a couple balls if I'm a golfer. By the time I hit hole number 6, there's me and my buddy Chris. Hey, would you like to buy a golf ball? $1. Well, 2 11-year-olds caused such a disruption at the country club that the golf pro, the head pro, said, you guys have got to shut it down. You guys can't sell. Like, what are you talking about? You can't sell golf balls on the golf course anymore. So what do we do? In all businesses, we had to make a pivot. So we went into the ham and cheese and Dorito business. So now we're selling ham sandwiches on the golf course. And after they buy a ham sandwich, it would be like the guy that sells the pins. He opens up his coat jacket and we'd say, you want to buy a golf ball? So that was my first entrepreneurial business. Great business. I got 0 cost for my inventory. I can go in the pond. I got to put a little sweat equity in there. I pull the golf balls out for free. And, we made a couple $100, but learned a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I didn't know about business then that now. And so that's kind of how I got my start in the entrepreneurial world.
I don't think anybody would do this in Florida, right? Because of gators and stuff. They do?
Yeah, there's some crazy people out there.
I would be so afraid of a gator snagging my ankle.
So I'm a golfer and I teach and still play professionally. That's still a huge business. People are still diving for golf balls. Yeah. You can buy these refurbished golf balls online by the bushel or whatever, and it's still thriving.
And Ty, we had all the equipment. I had the reacher. Yeah. I had the golf ball reacher that we'd go in with. And then we would go to the first tee where all the guys would pull their new balls out of the sleeve, and we would pull the sleeves out of the trash, and then we would match up those balls to that packet and rebox it. So now it looked like I had brand new golf balls in the sleeve, and I was selling that on hole number 7. I was getting $550 for those bad boys. 0 cost except for my sweat equity in the pond. Great business.
That's awesome.
Great business.
And then 2 weeks later, you started selling wedding dresses.
No, not at 11 years old. Not at 11 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to go.
So that
to
was.
school
that's like where you first realized you had these entrepreneurial tendencies.
Yep.
And then where did it go from there?
So graduated college. I started working for the Man, and in a cubicle selling magazine ads. We started a professional disc jockey service. So my buddy was in that business. He said, hey, I'm sick and tired of not making tips. The owner's keeping all of our money. We're out here DJing these weddings. I need to make some more money. I said, well, let's start our own business. He looks at me, he says, well, I don't have any money. I said, well, how much money does it cost to go buy DJ equipment? I don't know, $1,500, $2,000. The next day we're in a car, we're driving to Tampa. We go down there, buy 2 speakers, the setup, the CD player. We're booking weddings 2 weeks later, telling people, hey, we're a professional disc jockey service. How would you like to have the owners of the company come out and do your wedding for you? And we started doing weddings. And then that pivoted into getting into the wedding retail apparel business because my buddy was working for the competitor. He thought we could do something on a little bit more upper scale, a little bit more customer service driven. And we opened up with IOF, and you know what IOF is, ignorance on fire. I didn't know any better. We maxed out the credit cards. We signed the lease. We didn't know what we were doing. We were too dumb to not know. And we just kind of figured it out as we went. I knew people. I knew how to sell, and I knew I could train people how to sell so they could sell our product for us. We opened up in Gainesville in July of 2002. 14 months later, we had no money. We decided to open up our second store in Winter Park so we could go even further into debt. And that store started to make some money, and we finally figured it out. And then 13 years later, I just exited that business June of last year with a successful exit. We sold the business, and we can talk a little bit about how to set your business up and how to sell it, because I heard right from the beginning, hey, when you get in, have the end in mind. I'm like, I don't even have a business plan. How do I have an end in mind? What are you talking about? And now I know, because I talked to a business broker, and she says, this is what your business needs to look like when you go to sell it. And so we started putting those pieces in play for how to sell a business. So for those of you that are entrepreneurs listening to this, you've got to know what the business looks like from a tax return standpoint. It looks good to you. You think you know how much it's making, but someone's going to view that completely differently. And you need to be talking to the guys that know how to sell your business so you can successfully do it when it's time to do it. And sorry to cut you off, most people sell it at the wrong time. They're either too old, and there's a sickness in the family and they have to sell it, they're forced to sell it, or they sell it on a downward trend because they're like, this baby's just going to keep going. I'm going to keep making more money. And there's eventually going to be a peak where it levels off. You got to sell your business before you hit that peak.
So you think everybody should have an exit strategy? Like, what if, I mean, because I'm just like reflecting back on New Scooters for Less, right? And I'm thinking about this company where I seized an opportunity. You know, I saw an opportunity, wanted to help college students get to and from class, recognize these transportation issues at the University of Florida. I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get into this. Did it, and it's still doing really, really well. Mm-hmm. Like, we're having one of our greatest years to date. I mean, I don't necessarily have any type of exit strategy in mind. Yeah, and I'm with that said, I'm even working on a new business now. You know what I mean? But I'm not necessarily like, oh, let me think about the process of selling New Scooters for Less, or am I going to hold on to this for another 40 years, or am I going to hand it down to my kids? Or, you know, I'm just not thinking that far into the future. And you think I should?
Yes. So have you ever seen a business go out of business?
Yes, plenty of times.
So their exit strategy was forced on them versus them forcing an exit strategy.
Okay.
So you either work it till you die, or you eventually have some sort of exit strategy beforehand. How do you maximize your best year ever? What's it look like on the books right now to someone that wants to buy a business that has a revenue stream coming in? Is this your year to sell it? Should you be thinking about that? Because if you don't have an exit strategy, what's my exit strategy in my marriage? What were my vows? Till death do us part. That's an exit strategy. I won't be married anymore once I die. You don't want to have that same strategy in a business, because if I die and Ty takes it over, what if he doesn't know how to run the business? So the exit strategy has to be before, again, sickness, death, or declining sales.
So when should somebody be planning this strategy?
Again,
like as soon as they get into it?
They say have the end in mind when you start. I wasn't around the right people to tell me that and continue to hear that. YouTube wasn't popular in 2002, so I wasn't getting any more information on how to run a business and how to do it. So I think you gotta align yourself with people that are in your business, and you got to be talking and having these conversations. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What's your exit strategy? Well, and they tell you a little bit about it. So I think for you, and let's just talk about New Scooters for Less. You want to look at kind of a 3-year period, and you want to be talking to a business broker, because they're going to be able to tell you when they look at your books, this is when you're going to look the best. Maybe you should sell. And can you repeat 2019 like you did 2018? Yeah, I think I can. We need to start putting a packet together right now then to looking to sell.
Interesting. Something I've definitely never put any thought into. I'm just like, but I've heard it, you hear that term exit strategy a lot. Like, hey, what do you have an exit plan? Do you have an exit strategy? And they're just like, no, I guess it's just because I've always been super go with the flow.
Right.
I mean, even with the new company, even this year, the new company kind of came up by accident. You know what I mean? It was like an opportunity. And those
are the best businesses.
An opportunity presented itself. I'm like, nobody else is doing it as uniquely as this.
Right.
This is how an agency is defined. We're not even doing any of these things. We're doing, X, Y, and Z instead. And an opportunity presented itself.
And that's the way it happens. You find pain in the market and you say, nobody else is doing this. How do I do it better? And now all of a sudden you've created a business that helps people out, takes care of the pain, and if you can make money at it, then you've got those 3 things you're really working with fire there.
So did you know with Solutions Bridal, right? Mm-hmm. That you were going to sell? So because you say you're going to start putting the plan into place.
Right. So I had the conversation. I called the business broker in Orlando. I said, hey, we want to sell our business. And before she knew what I did, it's the funniest story. She ripped the wedding industry and retail. She's like, these are the worst business. I don't know how we got on that topic, but after she ripped that for about 5 or 10 minutes, I said, well, guess what? That's my business. I'm in the wedding retail apparel business. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I said, no. I said,
but did you reach out to her?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. I reached out to her. I said, hey, I'm thinking about selling. What does this look like? What does it need to look like on paper? Because people kept telling me, this is what your tax returns need to look like. Because when someone's going to look at your business and buy it, this is what they need to see.
But why were you interested in selling? Just because you had a gut feeling that this was a good time, like stuff going on at home, or did you have like a competitor, somebody reaching out to you?
All of the above. So retail margins are getting squeezed. My rent's going up. My payroll's going up. Health insurance is going up. My product, for example, here with you, your scooter, you're buying a scooter for $1,000 and you're selling it for $2,000. All of a sudden, you're buying it for $1,200 and selling it for $2,000. All of a sudden, you're buying it for $1,400 and selling it for $2,000. So I'm getting squeezed on that. All the while, rent's going up, payroll's going up, and health insurance is going up. So I see to myself, hey, it's evident I'm going in the wrong direction. I need to exit out of this business. So I call her up, call the business broker. What does this need to look like?
Was that because you did not see increasing the prices or anything? Like, so, I mean, using the scooter example, you didn't see taking the scooter from $2,000 to $2,200 or to $2,500?
Couldn't, because the guy across the street was already selling it he was actually discounting it for $1,900. So now I'm getting
the same product.
At the same product. So now I'm getting even squeezed more because my competitor, it's a race to the bottom on who can sell it the cheapest, which you don't want to be in that race. Everybody loses there. And I just saw where we were getting squeezed and we had to get out. And I'm having a conversation daily with my CPA, and he's giving me great advice. Hey, this is what I see on the books. Always have a good CPA. You entrepreneurs that are listening out there, you've got to have somebody that can look at the books. I was never good in accounting. I should have been. I didn't know how to read the numbers properly. I didn't add much to the conversation with my CPA, but I hired one of the best ones so he could give me the right advice so I could make the right decisions.
Yeah, vital to your team. I say CPA and attorney.
Absolutely.
Okay, so continue to walk me through this. So you reached out to this broker.
I talked to her. She says, all right, it's, let's see, what is it? It's late 2016. And she says, let's get your books in order. Let's start to, and she gives me specific tips. Okay, hey, you're writing off your car this way. Let's put this over here. You're doing this with some of your numbers. Let's move that over here. And this is a whole nother show, how to work these numbers and do it properly. And all the stuff's above board. But she starts to tell me how this needs to look like on paper. So we start to live that way that she's told me that we should live from 2016 till we sell it in 2018. We get our tax returns correct. She puts it on the market. People start looking at it. I get on the phone with people, tell them how the business works. This is what it looks like. This is why you want to buy it. And we had a couple full price offers. They fell through. The next one fell through. The next one fell through. And then finally we got somebody that came in. It was a cash offer, which was beautiful because I didn't have to do the financing with them, the whole back end, SBA loan, that whole rigmarole. But it worked out very well. But the only reason we were able to sell it is because she gave me great advice and told me what it needed to look like. I stumped him. Did you all just hear that on the podcast? That was 2 seconds of silence. I had Colin silent for 2 seconds. He doesn't have a follow-up question right now. He's thinking about, how do I sell my business right now?
That's not true.
How's that business doing today? Now fast forwarding.
They are, I mean, I don't know what their books look like. They're still in business. They're still doing well. It's funny, my VP of Solutions Bridal and my manager both left Solutions Bridal 6 months after the new owner took over and opened up their own store in Winter Park, so about 20 miles away. So I think the business is still doing well. They're still there. You know, I was an absentee owner, so I think the new owner was able to come in and kind of take the salary away from the VP and the manager because she's now putting her own hours in. I wasn't attached to the store because I couldn't sell the end client. I was more on the operations side, buying, help managing the books, the strategy of where we were going. My sales staff was in there selling the product to the end buyer.
Where do you go with that?
Well, it's retail's always interesting. And going back to golf, I ran a golf course in Vegas for a couple of years, and that industry's been squeezed, big time. And with all the discount, search engines, all that type of stuff, where was the squeeze coming from? Kind of how as you saw your exit strategy, maybe from 2014 to 16 to 18, is it the online boutiques? Is it just the availability to kind of customize your wedding dress, customize everything? Where do you think that first started, and where do you think in other businesses, like kind of in the scooters, and we haven't talked about this with like limes and birds and that sort of thing. There's always things that you don't expect that are coming. what was kind of the first thing you saw? Was it just the books where you're starting to make less money, or was it the online stuff?
Online is crushing retail across the globe right now. I mean, Amazon is putting a hurting on anybody. So Amazon wasn't selling wedding dresses. We had a nice product that wasn't being sold all over the place. We had some exclusivities in it. My main problem was they would still shop me on that one product, going back to the scooter for $2,000, that example. They would still shop me on that, but my payroll was going up, my rent was going up, and my health insurance was going up. And so those three things, with not being able to raise my prices with the inflation rate kind of going up alongside of that, we were just getting squeezed. And my CPA's like, this is going to come a point where you're taking money out of the business right now. In another 6 or 8, 10 months, you're going to start having to put money into it. And so I got on that fast track to getting out of that situation very quickly by evaluating it, getting it listed, getting it with a broker, and selling it.
I mean, the fact that it was cash is pretty rare, you would say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we're in that time right now. I mean, the economy's good. So I think we caught the peak of the market right here. Just in these last 24 months have been really good. These people had come into some money. They had it. They were ready to rock and roll. The wife wanted to buy. She wanted to be in the wedding industry. Convinced her husband to get in the wedding industry, and they purchased us. So yeah, most of the time people, and I was talking to Iptu about this earlier, you got to have a down payment and then go borrow the rest of it to do a real estate play or to buy a business, something like that. Most traditional ways of purchasing a business is going to be levered and is going to have debt on it.
Okay, so now fast forward, like you sell that business. What happened next? So, because you're involved in a lot of different things,
right? And you and I have been talking about this, and Ty, you'll appreciate this. So for the last 5 years, just like you would in golf, you're studying good golfers, right? Because you're trying to learn the tricks of the trade. I started studying the rich. So for the last 5 years, I'm like, what are the rich doing? And when I say the rich, I'm talking about net worth individuals that I see on another level from where I'm at and where I'm trying to get. And I started studying these guys, and every single one of them in their portfolio had real estate. I said, okay, so this is interesting. So this guy owns this business. You hear you know his business. It's a household name, his business, but he's making all his money in real estate. Why is that? And you start to do the research. And so you and I have talked about this, Colin. I started looking into getting into real estate. How do I get into real estate? I've got to save up $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to go make my first purchase. So I started learning about the real estate game, talking to people that were in real estate. How does this work? How do you make a purchase? What's the right time to buy? And we made our first real estate purchase about 2 years ago. So I wanted...
Ever?
Yeah, besides for a house. Okay. Besides for my personal house, yes, which is a house...
We're talking about, but as an investment. As an investment. Renting it out.
So I'm going to quiz you and Ty. Is a house an investment? Is it a liability or an asset? Ty, liability or an asset?
I would call it a liability.
Liability. Colin?
Liability as long as I owe the bank.
You're exactly right. And a lot of you guys listening to the show think my house is an asset. It's not. It creates no cash flow for you. You are paying for it every single month. So I wanted passive income coming in. I wanted to purchase real estate because for all you entrepreneurs that are listening to this, it's about revenue streams. You have to have multiple revenue streams coming in. If I go to work and I get a paycheck, that's one revenue stream. But how do I make money while I'm at work? I was telling Iptu this before we came in. I got to have another revenue stream, another 2 revenue streams, another 3 revenue streams coming in that can pay me. You've got several businesses going right now. Those are multiple revenue streams.
But is that the right thing to do? I kind of got into this with Richard last week because he's had his hands dipped into several things, multiple companies that have gone on the NASDAQ. And one key term that I kept seeing pop up was simultaneously. He was doing all these different things. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of glad this is coming up again because it's the irony is you hear that like you should have several different revenue streams, but then as an entrepreneur you hear you should really stay focused on one thing and do one thing really, really well, which those are 2 very opposite things. Like,
yeah, I'm not an entrepreneur that can focus on one thing because I'm all over the place. My personality's orange. I'm constantly going things. I'm going to get bored very quickly.
Does that prevent you from doing one thing really, really awesome?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course it does. but that's the way I'm built. So going back to
it's not a weakness.
It could be.
Okay.
I'm just
wondering how you perceive it.
But let me ask you, let me say this. So passive income, you said he had several things going on at a time. Passive income to me is something that you don't have to show up for, right? I don't want an employee-driven revenue stream because I'm going to have to manage these employees over here. I'm going to have to manage these employees over here. I've got 2 or 3 things going on. I need a vending machine that I can go buy and take $500 a week out of because it sits there and it gives people bottled water and Snickers bars. I want a storage unit that I can get a check from because people are paying to have that storage unit every single month, and I've got one employee sitting over there. They can write people up for a new storage unit. I want a rental home that they pay $2,300 a month for every single month, and they write the check, and I don't have to show up to that house 9 to 5. I don't have to work at that house. That's different to me than starting a business that has 15 employees that generates income, and now I got to go manage those 15 employees. To me, those are 2 different passive incomes, in my opinion. How you title those or how you think of those, that's up to you. But as you entrepreneurs listen to this, there's passive income with little or no employees, and then there's not so much passive income with the business that you have to manage people that you have to show up at.
So what are the types of passive income you have established?
We're looking into and have some plans right now to do storage units.
Okay.
Storage units are a great asset class. They're a very low default rate, meaning people pay for them and they continue to pay for them. It's a better default rate than even rental income. But here at the University of Florida, rental income is good because students are coming in, their parents are guaranteeing it, so that's a good asset class as well. But storage units, I was in the vending machine business. We had one vending machine. It was in a very low traffic area, and I had a business partner on it, and we were pulling about $17 or $20 a week out of this vending machine. But I wanted to the thought was go get 40 and 50 vending machines. Well, then that was going to create work where we had to either get a truck to go fill all those 40 or 50 vending machines. So again, all these things, you've got to figure out how much work do I want to put into that and how much juice can I squeeze out of that. Vending machine business, I talked to guys in Chicago and New York before we got into it, and I said, how many machines do you have? And these guys were running a full-on business. I mean, they had 4 or 5 trucks that were going and filling these vending machines and taking money out of it. We never got to that level. We were in it for a year, sold the thing, and we were out. But those types of businesses can be good because it's not employee driven. That machine won't call in sick. I don't have to pay it health insurance, and it's never going to ask for a raise. So those can be good businesses. The vending machine, just you press the button and it kicks out and you can make money off of it. But the one thing I want to tell most of your entrepreneurs here is going back to the studying the rich for 5 years, you've got to have real estate in your portfolio. These guys that have grown it and have done it and have a high net worth have passive income coming in from real estate. So then I always heard people talk about that. And I'm like, okay, great. I want to buy real estate. Now, how do I do that? If you're listening to this show, you've got to save $10,000 to $20,000, and you've got to be looking for real estate like a woman looks for shoes. You got to be looking every day. Like a good woman looks for shoes and shops for shoes, you got to look for real estate every single day. So once you've saved up your money, you can start looking at deals and figure out what's going to be a good purchase for you. Go buy a quad, 4 doors for $150,000 that gives you $2,000 in income a month, and you put $20,000 down on that. That's a good purchase. And then you buy another one, and then you buy your 3rd one, and then you buy your 4th one, and you build that portfolio that way.
And so now you have the real estate thing going on. Mm-hmm. Is that it? Is that your primary focus
real
right
estate,
now?
Real estate and storage is our primary thing. I teach at the University of Florida. Every semester I go in and teach seniors that are getting ready to graduate how to navigate the interview process, how to sell themselves, what's their why. It's amazing when I go over to the University of Florida and teach. I did an example in class the other day, 75 kids, stadium classroom seating. I said, all right, everybody take out your phone. And I want you to call. And as soon as I said call, the whole class went, and people laughed, just like you just laughed. And I said, what right here
like
in the
text,
front,
right?
What are you laughing for?
Text.
They're like, well, why? One kid said, why would I call somebody? This is the society we're in right now. Why would I call somebody? I said, well, I'm going to get to that here in a second. Pick up the phone. You can call your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your roommate. And I want you to talk to them for 2 minutes. Don't tell them why you're calling them. Okay, ready, go. So they start calling. We go through the whole exercise. 2 minutes later, I say, okay, stop. Right here in the front. Who'd you talk to? I called my mom. What was the first thing she said to you? She said, why are you calling me? How many of you, raise your hand if that was the response of your roommate, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle. They said, why are you calling me? Half the room raised their hand. And these kids are going to go in and sit down in front of somebody for 2 hours, present themselves, sell themselves on why this company should hire them, and they can't talk to their own mother for 2 minutes.
Right.
And the reason is because Harvard Business School did a study. If you're 14 to 22, and I think that should be even larger than that, you actually text more in a day than you speak the English language. So how am I going to sell myself in an interview? And we're diving all over the place now.
Yeah,
we went from real estate to studying the rich, and now we're in. But if I'm going to start a business, I mean, when I go to the bank and ask them for a loan, this goes to selling yourself, right? How am I going to sell myself in an interview if I'm a 21-year-old college graduate? Everybody graduated from college. Everybody's resume looks the same. Oh, you have experience? Ooh, you did some volunteer. Oh, wow, you did an internship? Well, you're a unicorn now. No, everybody did that. So how do I separate myself in the interview? And so we talk about that. How do you sell yourself? And I tell them.
So how do you do it? Give us the keys.
Well, you've got to get off your phone and you got to be able to communicate the English language like we're doing. You cannot text. And I tell them, I pull my phone out, I say, the interview's not going to be like this. And I act like I'm texting them. And then I wait. And we're doing this interaction where they're not going to be texting you the interview. You have to look them in the eyes and communicate your message and tell them for 2.5 hours why they want to hire you and why you're different than the others. And that's another show in itself. How do you get that interview? Because I talk about being first or last, be the very first interview. You think about this right now if you're listening. You remember your first kiss, your first car, your first date. You probably remember your last kiss, your current car. All the ones in between, they get a little fuzzy. Okay. So if I'm the first to interview, I've got a much better chance of them remembering me than the one in the middle. So I teach them how to be the first interview or the last interview. If you're going to the career fair, be the very first dude there at 8:30. Pick the 3 or 4 places you want to go to, be there first, and then come back at 5 when the whole thing's done and be the last person, because you're going to remember your first and last. So I teach a couple little things like that. But the one big thing I teach is, what's your why? Why do you want to work for us? And I give this example, and this is a hypothetical.
You want to know what my answer was?
What?
Because they were asking me this question, right? And like, so Colin, like, why do you want to work for us? And I was like, I don't. Like that's like one of the light bulb moments for me, was when I realized that I was never going to work for anybody, because these guys were asking me this question, like, why do you want to come work for us? And my answer was, I don't. And then that's when like the other light bulbs started going off, and I started paying more attention. I just realized I was never going to work for anybody. And that's when I realized the transportation issue, and then decided to dive into something I didn't know anything about, and ultimately change the culture of an entire town.
and most people will sit in an interview and they'll accept a job, and the company hasn't even told them what they're going to pay them, because they don't know how to negotiate money, talk about money, because money was a bad subject in their house growing up. A penny saved was a penny earned. So however money was treated when you grew up in your house is how you're going to treat it when you get married, when you go to an interview, when you have to ask for a raise. So I'm trying to teach them how to have these tough conversations of, what does this look like? God forbid you do get the job. What are you going to do in 90 days when it's time to ask for an evaluation or ask for a raise? So we talk about a lot of those things.
So what do you tell them? Now I'm like super interested.
On which part?
I mean, if a team member was going to go ask their employer for a raise, how should it be done?
You got to bring revenue to the conversation. Meaning, hey, Colin, I just wanted to let you know, out here on the service deck, over the last 90 days, I've actually showed you 2 different ways for us to make and create more revenue out there in this one room. So this, how big is this room out here?
This
40. Let's just say it's 40 by 40.
5,000 square feet.
5,000 square feet. So I've now shown you how to make an extra $500 a week out of this 4,000 square feet. And I'm going to show you that on paper. I'm going to bring this piece of paper to this conversation when we do our evaluation and ask for that raise. And so there's multiple ways of doing it. Most of my employees always came to me and said, hey, I've been here for 6 months. It's time for a raise. And I'm thinking, nope. No, it's not. You've stayed at the same level the entire 6 months.
Okay, that's what happens all the time.
Right. I deserve it. I've been here for 6 months breathing.
To do.
Right. So don't do that. Don't just come in here and say, hey, I've been here for a while doing the same average job. Bring revenue to the conversation. Hey, did you know that when I told you to get the plastic bags in the back, Colin, that actually saves us an extra $50 a month now because we switched from the blue to the green. Bring revenue to that conversation. Okay?
Smart.
That's the first thing I would say for that.
That never happens.
Right, because people don't know how to have the money conversation.
This will be the episode that every employer
hates.
Our audience will share with every single one of their team members.
Yeah, get ready.
I mean, really. I mean, which is great because
Yeah, awesome.
I think that's exactly what needs to be heard because I can't tell you how many people do exactly just that. Hey, I'm entitled to it because I've been here for so long.
Yep.
Like,
and here's the other thing,
screw up.
We're talking about interviewing. We're talking about so now you go out and get a job, right? So if I want to go buy real estate, they're not going to ask me what my GPA is. They're going to ask you what your liabilities and your assets are. Mm-hmm. So you need to learn. Rich Dad, Poor Dad does a great job of explaining this. Robert Kiyosaki, if you want to grab his book, what do my assets and my liabilities look like? Because the bank doesn't care if I have a 4.0 GPA or a 3.5 GPA. They want to know, can I put the money down and can I pay for it month after month?
Hell, do employers care?
No. I don't look at GPAs. I look, can you communicate a message in front of me? And how are you going to sell me in this interview? Because if you can sell me in this interview, that's probably a good indication of how you're going to sell my client out there on the sales floor. If you don't follow up, if you didn't check in before the interview, if you didn't write me a handwritten thank you card after the interview, if you didn't close me at the end of the interview, this is why I want the job, that's how you're going to treat my client. So if you do those things, we used to not even call someone back if they just sent a resume in. Unless they called to see if we got the resume or unless they showed face. I talk about that a lot, showing face to get a job. And now we're talking about how to get a job, but and we're talking to entrepreneurs about that. But
I mean, it sounds like a great class because frankly, I don't know if there's any, I've never even heard of classes teaching this kind of thing. And it's something that definitely needs to be taught.
Yeah, I mean, the University of Florida doesn't have a class that covers it. So that's why they bring me in. Which is amazing. So you put $100,000 into your college education and now it's your senior year and they bring me in for 4 hours to teach you how to go out and interview.
Well, it's funny because I mean, when I go to UF and I speak and, talk to groups of students and stuff. And I might have talked about it briefly on the podcast before, but, I'm always talking about how are you going to make yourself stand out? I reflect to the movie Legally Blonde where she hands the resume and it smells like perfume and it's pink or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, like it sounds ridiculous, but it actually stood out, and it's like, how are you going to make yourself unique? Some of the people, and I don't know how you feel about the whole resume thing. Like I've been on a push a lot to really like, especially with the new agency. I mean, we have personal branding as like one of our pillars. I'm more of like, hey, build colinaustin.com. Buy tyracurian.com, build your portfolio, you know what I mean? Show your work, let that be your resume and direct traffic there, because the first thing that I'm gonna do if I'm interested in like knowing, if I'm gonna hire Newell Fox, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go online and I'm gonna Google Newell Fox. Right? I'm gonna look at your social media. And what does that look like? I'm going to see what you're involved in. I'm going to look at your website and see your portfolio, like.
Yep. When you talked about the perfume and Legally Blonde, I had a girl that went down to Disney to get the internship down there for their wedding side of Disney's weddings. She was one of 5,000, and I don't know if they fluffed that number or not, one of 5,000 candidates just for an internship. You don't get paid, internship. And she took a glass slipper. And I kept telling her, go down there and show face. People, and they're like, what do you mean? Like, do I go to Disney to the front door and knock on the door? Yeah, you ain't getting in there with a phone call. Go to the front door, ask the guy, where's the office? What door is that? So she goes down there, gets in the office, gets in front of the right lady, and has a glass slipper in a box and hands it to the lady and says, I want to do my internship here at Disney. They have a conversation. If you show face, if you show up, that 5 minutes turns into an interview. It turns into 30 minutes, and people don't realize that. Come professionally dressed. Come with a resume. When you go in there, you're going to get an interview right then and there, and you're going to separate yourself from the group. So I love the Legally Blonde analogy. And plus, you've interviewed people before. If I do interviews from Monday through Friday, and I got 8 interviews on Monday, 8 on Tuesday, 8 on Wednesday, by the time I ask on Thursday morning, hey, tell me about a time when you ran into a difficult situation, I am bored out of my gore. I'm looking for a pattern interrupt or an answer or someone to bring me a perfume on a resume because I'm just bored. So I'm looking for somebody different. That's why I tell them to go first or last in the interview process. So these are all good tips as far as how do you separate yourself from the group? Because again, everybody's resume looks the same. Everybody graduated from the University of Florida. Everybody did an internship. Everybody did volunteer hours. Yeah. Now what's different?
Well, I reflect back on the people that I've hired. Like when we were looking for our first marketing manager, the person to come in and like take the lead on this stuff. I mean, I had people hand me full thought out marketing plans. Being like, hey, I came to this interview, but like, here's the marketing plan that I put together for you. I was like, damn, I mean, like a whole plan, like professionally done. Yeah. I looked at it and I was like, the plan's terrible, so I'm not gonna hire you. But it got my attention, and at least I like definitely, thought of it. The one person that I did hire sold herself. She had a whole like graphic design done up that was like, hey, did you hear that the #1 marketing creator in Gainesville is available for hire, and had like arrows drawn with a map, and it sold herself. It was like, this is why you should hire me. And it was, I mean, she had a resume too, but it was right on top, See,
I almost call that, and what we call it is a brag book. So I'll teach people to second or third interview, bring your brag book. And a brag book is just kind of a highlight of what you've done in your career. Because if I can look to the past, that's going to be a good indicator of the future. So if you were #1 salesperson, if you were valedictorian, if you were this and this and this, you put that in your brag book and you present that at the end as well. I just want to go through my brag book and highlight a couple things in here on why you want to hire me. We also teach people how to bring 90-day plans of action to the interview, final interview. Hey, this is what I see myself doing for New Scooters for Less in the first 90 days.
Yep.
I like that.
Well, and I had a tech one time who was moving to New York, and he brought me his resume. He's like, hey boss, like would you look this over and give me your thoughts on this? And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, Brian, I'm like this is a great resume, but like it just doesn't stand out. And he was like, what do you think I should do to stand out? And I mean, and while working here, he was also a helicopter mechanic in the United States Air Force. I was like, put on your uniform, hold a wrench, stand in front of a helicopter, take a picture, and attach it to the resume. I was like, I'm hiring that guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like just those little things that you can do to make yourself unique and stand out. Because the truth, I mean, when you get these employers, they get just piles and piles of resumes. What's going to make it stand out, over everybody else? I'm constantly telling people to be unique, and I think that's what has allowed me to really develop some of our core values here at the shop. That #1 core value of like, and not me, but my team, of creating and recreating the ultimate customer experience. That thing is the thing that makes us unique and makes us really well known across the nation. So be unique. That comes from me.
Be unique. One of the things, the other thing I wanted to cover was we talked about 20 or 30 minutes ago, a lot of guys will come on shows or I'll listen to different things online and they just kind of give this 30,000 foot view of how do you do this. So I want to get a little granular, if you'll allow me to, just on kind of how to save money and how to make that first real estate purchase. So one of the things I want to talk about is if you're making money and you're bringing revenue in from your job, and you're saying to yourself, how do I go out and make my first purchase? How do I buy a vending machine? How do I buy a storage unit? How do I buy real estate? You've got to be able to live off of 80% of your income, and you've got to be able to save 20%. And what most people do is the 29th, the 30th of the month comes up, we have no more cash left in the month, and what do? We get out the piece of plastic, we charge the rest of the month, and then we didn't have enough money to pay for that, and that goes in and rolls into next month. So you've got to get disciplined. People don't have an income problem, people have a spending problem. So if you can live off of 80% of your income, and I challenge everybody listening to this right now, live off 80%, save the 20%, that's how you quickly get to that first $10,000, $15,000, and $20,000 in savings to go out and make your first purchase. Dave Ramsey's got a great program on that, how to live off 80%. Robert Kawasaki talks about that as well. Grant Cardone, those three guys are guys that I listen to that have mentored me, and they talk about how to get to that.
Keep going.
Tell me more. So you've saved up. Now you've saved up that first 10 or 15. You've been looking for real estate. You've been driving around town and calling realtors, calling guys that own different properties. And what I did was I was buying stuff that wasn't even listed on the market. I would identify a place I wanted to buy. I would look him up on the tax deed. I would find out who the guy was, and I would just put him on the drip campaign. He's getting pictures of my family once a quarter of us at Halloween. Hey, Newell Fox family, just wanted to introduce myself. I saw that you have a piece of property on University Avenue. If you ever are interested in selling it, I'm looking for a mentor. I'd like to know more about the property. I'd like to purchase it. Let me know.
Are these residential places?
Residential. I'm not buying a lot of commercial. Residential and multifamily is what I'm trying to do. And so lo and behold, after 2 or 3 years of putting people on drip campaigns, then I'm having conversations with them. Hey, let's meet at Starbucks. And I'm building relationships with some of these guys. And eventually they're going to start selling me pieces of their portfolio. And when they think about selling it, they're going to sell it to me because they get a card in the mail from me once a quarter, with a beautiful picture of my family and my wife and my kids. And I've built that relationship with them. So that's how you're identifying and finding the piece. Because most people are like, okay, great, I got $20,000. I don't know how to buy this piece of real estate. Well, you need to start talking to people that do know how to buy real estate because you're just not educated on it yet. You put $100,000 into a college education, you've put no time and money into how to go out and make a great investment. So you got to get around the right people to have that conversation.
I think a lot of it goes back to the same thing you were talking about with the cell phones and the kids getting outside of their comfort zone. There's a comfort behind texting. There's a comfort behind these things. Like, how do you tell somebody to step outside of their comfort zone? How does one go about building that relationship?
With someone that you're trying to buy real estate from?
Yeah, or just.
I mean, again, and I tell the kids, I teach at UF 2 weeks in a row, so I'll come in on a Tuesday and then there's a gap. I tell them when I leave class the first Tuesday, I say, listen, the next 10 people that call you, the next 10 people that text you, pick up the phone and call them. And the whole class goes, oh, you've got to get in the habit of communicating a message. So if I can't talk to somebody right now, this age group that right now who owns real estate is 50 years and older right now. If someone's got a nice portfolio, they have built it, they're not young, they're older, and they communicate through text, but they love the eye to eye, go to Starbucks. I'm going to help mentor you. Let me sell you a little bit of my portfolio now. So that's how I built those relationships, is just grassroots, getting in front of them. Let's go grab a coffee and look at them eye to eye and saying, hey, teach me a little bit more about this. How did you get started? Because people love to tell their story. And so they would tell me their story about real estate. And then I would kind of say, okay, how am I going to cherry pick this? And what am I going to buy from this guy? And what am I going to do here? And that's how I kind of did it. The problem is, and you and I have kids, your kids have tablets? Are they on the screen?
Oh yeah, big time.
And why don't we take them away from them? Because it's easier to have them staring at the screen and being quiet than running around and doing God knows what. When we were growing up, we'd go outside. Yeah, and they said the average 2-year-old right now knows how to swipe because their parents are putting that monitor in front of them. And you think about how sick it is. Most of us will sit in front of the TV at home and watch the TV. We've got our tablet out. We're swiping through that. We've got our phone out, and we got 3 screens in front of us. Mm-hmm. And so it's just technology. It's the route we're going, but challenge your kids to get off the screens or only do it on the weekend or whatever, because there's no eye contact anymore. They're not looking at each other. They're not, and parents are at fault too. You'll go out with your kids and I'll meet Ty for the first time, and both of my kids, I'm going to introduce both of my kids to Ty. They're not just going to stand there and they are adults in my mind. That is a teaching moment. Ty, this is my daughter Ansley. Ty, this is my son Indy. And I'm going to make sure that they shake hands with them and they look him in the eye. And if they don't do it correctly, I'm going to correct them on it. How else are they going to know? And most of them wouldn't look at Ty anyway because they're down here on their monitor swiping through whatever the heck they're playing.
Yeah. I mean, we balance the screen time with our kids. We definitely give them not very much at all during the week. We definitely let them get their time on the weekend. But the whole thing is that's the world that they're going to be living in. That world's only going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. So think about the kids that can actually look at somebody and communicate a message, how much of an advantage they'll have. Because if the world is going that way, which you're absolutely right, if I have the ability to communicate a message and sell my product or service or sell myself, what kind of an advantage do I have? Yeah, big one.
Big one.
Going back to that, I liked when you said the drip campaign, like almost a personalized drip campaign. How many people are on your drip campaign currently?
Great question.
And how do you manage that? And what would you do if you don't have a family, you don't have kids? It's just like you and you don't know anyone. You're in a new town. How do you go about starting that first kind of get your voice out there, get your mind, get your personality in front of these people?
Yeah, I've got probably about 7 or 8 on the drip campaign right now. Okay. Those 7 or 8 probably have a portfolio, and I call them doors. Because if it's a house, it's got a front door. If it's a quad, it's got 4 doors. Those 7 or 8 individuals probably have a portfolio of at least 30 to 100 doors each. Okay. So within those 7, I've got access to maybe 500 or 600 doors that I'm looking to purchase. Some of these people, I've never even seen their stuff. I just know they have income producing real estate. So to answer your question, if I don't have a family or kids, like the helicopter picture, take a picture in front of the helicopter, put a wrench in your hand. This is me. If you're looking for jobs in the golfing world, you'd have a golf club in your hands, you'd be on a golf cart, whatever, and you're sending that out to the golf clubs that you want to work for. So I think it's your personality, whatever you...
Personalized golf ball in the mail with the resume.
I wouldn't hire that person.
That's not a bad idea.
No?
Put your name on the golf ball, send it over to them. So so anything that you can think of...
People can find it.
So here's a cool idea. I teach this at University of Florida. Send your resume in a box. So I'll give you one story. Guy wants to interview, he wants to work for Jay-Z up in New York. He takes my box idea and he takes it to the extreme. So he goes and gets a box. And I'm talking about like a box that's 2 feet tall by 2 feet wide. He puts his resume in there, clear coat bounded, spiral bound, puts it in there with all the peanuts, the stuffing, and he sends it to Jay-Z. They can't even get the box. It wasn't a 2x2, but the box was so big they couldn't even get it through the front door. He's sending his resume. I told him to do this, right? They have to take the resume around to the back of the building. Like I came in through the back here today because of the loading dock. They bring the resume in and they open it up. And I told him to write this note. Now that I've got your attention, let me get the attention of your clients for you. He drives on spring break from Gainesville to New York, goes up there to show face. They're not answering his call, because it's Jay-Z's deal. They're not picking up the phone. He drives up there, gets there, asks for the hiring manager, and tells the lady at the front desk his name. And of course, what does she deal with every day? Phone calls and packages. She says, "Are you so-and-so?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's me." You're the one who sent the box with your resume? Yeah. Justin's in here. Let me go get him real quick. Goes in, Justin comes out. Hey, and think about the story. He already sent the box. He's already got attention. He just drove 16 hours or 18 hours from Gainesville on spring break to come up here and meet the guy. You think the guy gave him more than 5 minutes of time? Absolutely. He spends an hour and a half with the guy. The guy invites him to lunch. They go to lunch together. He gets the internship and he works for Jay-Z now. He's 27, 28 years old. This was 6 or 7 years ago. He calls me about every year about how to go through his annual review, what he should have in it, what we're talking about bringing revenue to the conversation, what he's doing for Jay-Z, what he's doing for that business.
How strong of a connection is that for you? Do you think you can get Jay-Z on our podcast?
I don't know about that. We'd have to send a box and get his attention. But think about it. I call it a pattern interrupt. It's when you walk on the car lot and the guy says, "Hey, Ty, how you doing?" And you're like, "All right, dude, I know you want to sell me something. How do I change that pattern and that message?" Now all of a sudden I got a box with a kid's resume in it. Why the heck I did it for a job that I don't review because I always go back out and test what I'm doing in the real world. So I did it 2 or 3 years ago, and I sent mine in a box and I called the guy. You know this guy, I won't mention his name, but he gets the box. And when I'm in the interview and I'm just going through the practical things to do it to see if what I'm teaching at UF works, he talks about his daughters playing with the peanuts that were out of the box for a week solid. He says those things were all over my house. You think I was memorable in the interview because he remembered the box, his daughters played with the peanut, they were all over the place. So anything that you can do to separate yourself from the pack is, we're kind of, again, we're going a lot of different directions. We're talking about real estate, we're talking about interviewing, but that is something that's very important, separating yourself from the pack. You guys do it with New Scooters for Less. Your branding, your company, the way you guys handle things, it's different than what the norm is. And that's why people like you guys. That's why people are over here. That's why you got a popsicle out there that's 4 feet long that says 250 tickets hanging in the lobby, because that's different. That's cool. People want to be associated with that.
Yeah. And I think that's why we've been able, kind of going back to the beginning of our conversation, I think that's one of the ways we've been able to really keep revenues growing, even though margins might be shrinking. Like we're selling more units, and able to deliver more value in the actual product itself. So a lot of people might not know this, but when we sell a scooter, you know, we're likely to win over our competition, and not only locally but regionally. You know, somebody who might live in Tampa or South Florida, somebody who's going to be, hey, let me buy a scooter and bring it to Gainesville versus just buying it in Gainesville. We're able to win on that because we say, hey, like, we're going to give you free deliveries and pickups in Gainesville with your service, like with your scooter, like for free. It's included, right? So if you run over a nail, if your daughter runs over a nail, gets a flat tire, we're going to come out, pick it up, bring it back, and there's not going to be any charge for that towing. You're going to get a discounted labor rate. If it has to come in for a warranty repair, we're going to provide your daughter with a rental scooter while it's in for warranty. We do that. So we provide all this extra value in the price. So looking at, you know, the competitor across the street selling the same thing to $2,000, okay, like, yeah, we're here with price, but you were providing all this extra value, so we're able to get the sale. And then we pass that on. We say, hey, if you buy, you know, if you sell the scooter 4 years from now, you're finished with school and you sell it to somebody else, now that person's going to get all the value. So it passes along, it stays with the scooter, not necessarily with the customer who bought it.
And I love your idea about, you've talked about having, you know, a coffee place in here and just different things to kind of enhance the experience. And when you first told me that, I was like, why in the world would anybody drive from Tampa to come to Gainesville to get a scooter? But it's because of the experience. We did it in the bridal business for years. We had such good reviews and people were so amazed with our staff and wanted to come to that. I mean, it's a big deal to buy a scooter. It's a big deal to buy a wedding dress. So people want to have this experience that's involved with that purchase. People are huge on experience right now, and you guys are providing that. And it goes back to red ocean, blue ocean. The red ocean is Wendy's, McDonald's, and Burger King are all on the same street corner, and they're all selling the same product, and the blood's in the water. It's red. Here comes Colin, and the name of his business is Five Guys, and he's charging $8, $9, $10 for a burger. You're in a blue ocean now because you've completely separated yourself from these three guys because of experience, price point, and whatever you're doing. You're going after a different client now. And so if you can go in a blue ocean, it's a lot better than swimming around in a red ocean. So you guys are doing that with competition because you're different than them. If the customer can't see any difference, there is no difference. I'm just going to buy from this guy. He's closer. So you're constantly trying to separate yourself. One thing I wanted to get back to, so on money management for entrepreneurs that are listening, I asked you this before we went on the show. Where's all your money go? Does it go into one account? And you said no, it goes into
a couple of accounts. We have
and what are they called?
Operating and reserve.
Operating and reserve. And I said, Colin, is reserved a true reserve? And he smiled real big and he said, well, unless operating gets a little short, I have to steal from reserve. So Profit First is something that you guys ought to look up if you're listening to the show. I gave Colin a copy of this. This is great. If you're an entrepreneur and you own a business, you can even run your family like this. You can even save for a wedding. My buddy Iptu over here is getting ready to save for a wedding. So what you do is, for example, if $10,000 comes into your business for the month, most guys are going to take that $10,000 and they're going to put it in one account. And then they're going to make decisions for the next 30 days on what's in that account, what they're going to buy. Hey, we got a great advertising opportunity for you. I look in my account, I say, okay, I got $6,000 in there. I'm going to do this. And then I got to pay the light bill, or I got to make payroll. So I'm running my entire business out of that one account. I did that in the bridal business for 8 years the wrong way, all in one account, making decisions out of that. I see this a couple years ago, and this is another reason why we were able to have a successful exit strategy. That $10,000 now comes in, I've got 4 accounts. Think about this for a second. You guys are listening to this, so this might be hard to visualize, but if you take $10,000, you draw a circle and you put $10,000 on it and draw 4 legs off of it. The first leg is owner's pay. This is what you're going to pay yourself. If you own your own business, pay yourself. So you're going to pay yourself 50% of that $10,000. Okay, so $5,000 goes into the owner's account. And it, on my Bank of America online profile, it says owner's pay. So I know that $5,000 of that $10,000 goes in there. The other one, 15% of that $10,000 is going to go into taxes. Any of you entrepreneurs, a lot of you guys haven't saved up your money for taxes, and then the tax bill comes and it's $4,000, it's $6,000, and you're like, oof, how am I going to pay this? You delay taxes, you incur interest. That's a nightmare. So put 15% of what you're making every month into a tax account. On your online profile on Bank of America, it says taxes. 15% goes in there. Your operating expense, you were talking about this, 3,000 of that 10,000 goes into your operating expense. This is how you're going to pay payroll. This is how you're going to turn the lights on. This is how you're going to pay health insurance. This is how you operate your business out of this. And then the last one is profit. It's going to be 5% of the 10,000. The profit is, I'm going to put that over here in this account, and that's the one I'm going to build up to. See, it all comes back to this. I'm going to build it up to $10,000 to $15,000 so I can go make that real estate purchase. It's going to take a while to build up, but I'm making money over here. I'm making that 10 grand, and now I'm going to put it in these 4 different accounts. So the first account is owner's pay. Second account is taxes. The third account is operating expenses. That's how I'm going to run my business out of that account. When I go to make a decision on my business, I will look at the operating expense account. Hey, Colin, would you like to advertise in this magazine? Operating expense. Let's see. I don't have any money for that. No, thank you. Can't do it right now because I'm trying to save money and profit. I'm trying to pay myself, and I got to put money away over here for taxes. If I don't do any of those 3 things, I'm in the rat race. You own your own business, but you're still in the rat race. You might as well go work for somebody else. And then the last one is profit. We're going to build that profit account up, 15,000, 20,000, 25,000, and then I can go make that purchase. Stocks, I can buy bonds, I can buy real estate, I can buy storage units, I can buy something that's going to create passive income. But if I don't have those 4 accounts, and he even makes you, this guy's so sick, he makes you go put the profit account at a different bank. So I got 3 accounts at Bank of America, and then when I want to shift that money around and cheat and put my reserves over my operating expense, I got to drive across town to go to my profit account and pull that money out. So it makes you very disciplined on how you run your money, how you save it, and where you put it.
Okay, but I don't mean to beat up on this, but my problem is not profit, it's cash flow.
Right.
So the biggest issue for me is, we just went through August. The cash flow was great, profit was great, but now I'm heading back into November, December. All these college students are about to leave. And I need what's in that reserve account to keep my business afloat until I can get back to the next season. And from a net income perspective, we're good.
Right.
We're doing really well.
Right.
So how do you put the cash flow measurement into this?
Well, so your own business, when you're seasonal, so you're going to have to tweak this formula to make sure that it works for you properly. Maybe it's not that exact percentage. Maybe in August, as opposed to putting 30% in operating expenses for the month of August, you say that month we're going to put 75% into operating expenses because I need that nut for September, October, November. So you've tweaked the percentages. So you got to customize this to your business. That's a great question because everybody's not making $100,000. All these entrepreneurs aren't making $100,000 or $10,000 every single month. Guess what? I made 8 this month. I made 15 the next. And most people, when they make 15, what do they go do? They go spend it. They don't put it in these accounts and delegate that money to where it should be going. So for you, on those big months, you've got to change your percentage and stockpile one of those accounts. For you, it's operating expense because that's what you're going to need the next month that's going to be down, right? So you got to stockpile that in August and make sure it's big enough to help you get through September, October, November. And
then the other thing is determining where to invest the money, because you're saying, okay, you have that 10 to 15,000 now, maybe you go invest it into that piece of real estate. So I can tell you, if I had to guess, I'd say most people are reinvesting it right back into the business. For me, it usually comes in hiring another person. I'm kind of experiencing this with the media company right now. I'm kind of holding on until January 1st, waiting for January 1st to get here because I have a plan to bring in two full-time project managers because I know my strength is selling. And I know that right now I'm doing a lot of the account management myself, but if I can get out there and start selling, then I'm going to be able to bring in more revenue for the business.
So that business, let's see, we're ending October. That business made money this month.
Now. Yeah.
You made some money this month. You have some revenue. Would it be a big deal if I took 5% of what you made in October and put it over here in an account and you never saw it again? 5% of it? No.
Not right
so
now.
You just got to get disciplined enough to be able to, when the money comes in, put it in these accounts, because 5% wouldn't hurt you. And then all of a sudden, 6 months from now, I say, hey, Colin, I looked at your profit account. You got You got $8,000 sitting over here. How'd that happen? You know what? I don't know. I just kept putting 5% over in that account. So you've got to be disciplined with that. And I hear you. You're putting 30% again, or you're tweaking your percentages back into the business, but you've got to be disciplined enough to put it over here in these other accounts. Otherwise, you're never going to have. How many entrepreneurs are listening to this right now that say, that's great? How many of y'all have $10,000, $15,000 sitting in an account right now saying, I don't know what to do with this? Not many of you, because you haven't been disciplined enough to put it over there. The first problem you want to have is, what do I go buy because I now have the money? That's the problem you want to have. Not, I don't have $15,000 sitting in this account, right, Ty? And I don't know what to go buy. You need the money in the account and then the problem of what to go buy. But you won't miss the 5% if you put it over there, I promise. And if you do, tweak and customize your numbers, right? You said seasonal. Everybody's seasonal. You got to be able to, and most people don't write out the 12 months in advance, right? If you know August is going to be the big money month, write it out and say, that month, I'm going to put this much, instead of 30% into my operating account, I'm going to put this much in there. And then September, it may change because of cash flow. So everybody's customizable.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
We got to wrap up. Any last words?
I wanted to ask one thing about the Newell Fox University.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different kind of leadership and coaching and all sorts of brand building types of things out there now. And it seems like a really great way to create a passive income. I'm wondering, from your perspective, how are you going to kind of differentiate yourself and your brand to be able to kind of peel through kind of the onslaught of the Facebook ads I'm sure we all receive from Grant Cardone, all these different people? What is... And it seems to it's going to be kind of resume building, how to get that job, how to look someone in the eye, talk to them, how to create a conversation. What is that university going to look like? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, it's been something I've been working on. As Colin said earlier, if you're not focused on one thing, it's tough to get things to the elite status. This is something that I've been tinkering with for 5 or 6 years. I've gone to the thought of, do I go to the Power 5 conferences and say, hey, let's white label this for you guys and give your students access to it because they need it, and you guys pay me a freight every single month. Well, that was a boom splat because the universities are admitting that they aren't teaching what they need to be teaching at their career resource centers. Sure. So they don't need Newell Fox University, even if we white label it. Then I went to, okay, let's give it away for free. Let people nibble on it a little bit, like the content, and then they can come in and I get enough viewers, then I can sell advertisement to those people that come in and look. So we are continually tinkering with and trying to figure out the revenue model on this.
Yep.
I haven't figured it out yet. The Newell Fox University, right now, I'm getting parents that are just calling me one-on-one and saying, hey, I looked up Interview Coach. I found you. My son needs your help. He's graduating from the University of Florida as a finance major. Can you help him? And I'll coach that kid for 6 months, onboard him, put him on a monthly fee, and I'll coach that kid up one-on-one. That's not scalable. That's not the way to do it. I enjoy doing in that. So this has been kind of a constant tinker and trying to figure it out. If you have any good ideas for me on it, I'll definitely take them. But it's there's a lot of noise out there, and breaking through that noise and then trying to align yourself. Do I license it? Do I white label it? So I've had those conversations, but I would do real estate first before I did that.
Yeah, okay.
How do you determine what to prioritize? I mean, when you have all these different things, I mean, is it because you're like, okay, I noticed the rich, they're in real estate, so you're like, I'm just going to put that make that my priority?
Yeah, I mean, my daily schedule, I have a weekly big three, and then I have a daily big three, and it was a planner. It's called Focus Planner, so it kind of taught me how to do this. So every day I've got to check off what was my big three today, and I it goes to your annual goals of, hey, I want to purchase at least 16 units this year. We actually just closed on 16 units yesterday.
Cool, congrats.
So that was one of my goals. And so you're constantly looking at that annual goal. Like, I want to knock 5 strokes off my score. Well, then daily, what are you doing to knock the 5 strokes off your score? And then at the end of the week, most of us, and this is a cool thing on the planner, most of us say, gosh, I didn't get this done, I didn't get this done, I didn't get this done. It makes you write down the 3 or 4 things you did get done that week, so you can go back and look at that. So prioritization for me is, what's the weekly big 3, and then what's the daily big 3 that I can check off. Today, one of my big 3s was come do a great job on the podcast. So I hope I've accomplished that goal with you and Ty. But, just knowing what you're going to do every day. And most people just wake up and say, all right, life, hit me with it. What do you got?
Yeah.
As opposed to hitting life.
Being intentional about it.
Being intentional is big.
Got it. Hey, is this available online somewhere? This Profit First?
Yeah, go to Profit First. This guy's name is
Mike, it says.
And you know who turned me on to this? Alex Willis, one of your former guests.
Alex Willis, episode 3.
Profit First, and there's about a 5-page demonstration of what it is. And of course, he's going to try to sell you something as well. Everybody's selling that, but you can get some great free content off this. And as I walked you through that $10,000 a month example and where you put that in your accounts, that's the 30,000-foot view of that. That's why you want to do that program.
Got it. Here's what we'll do. We'll scan this, or we'll find a PDF of this, and we'll put it on the website, WHOA GNV.com. Just go search for Newell Fox's, we have a little article area there. Elias will make sure that this gets on there, PDF, Profit First. And so that'll be on there, and you guys can download that PDF or save it, or whatever. Sound good?
Yeah.
So, hey, dude.
Thank you, man.
Thanks so much for being here.
Great show.
How can people connect with you? Do you have newellfox.com or?
Is my website or am I?
Is it up?
Is my phone number on there?
How should people connect with you?
I don't think
Email?
your phone number is on the website.
Yeah, just email me, newellfox@gmail.com.
All right, cool. Thanks again, man. And Gainesville World, thank you so much for listening. This is the WHOA GNV Podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa.
Whoa.
See you later.